Hello, my name is Rohan. Welcome to my presentation of Big Idea Challenge, Social Justice and the Justice System, as I dive deeper into prison systems and the alternative approaches to crime and punishment. Everybody has to work, but we have free time, so we can do some fishing or in summer we can swim off the beach. Let's analyze this dialogue. It is basically a person stating that everybody essentially has to work, but when there's some free time, fishing or going to beach is an option. Who do you think these lines are coming from? A carpenter, a plumber, or maybe a prisoner? We will come back to this question at a later time and then we would be able to answer this question very correctly. Today's focus will be on exploring the idea of restorative and transformative justice. To understand restorative and transformative justice, let's first look at retributive justice, which is the form of justice that is most widely used in many countries. What do you think should happen to a person who has committed a crime? Many people would answer that he should be held accountable. Some would answer that he should be handed a long sentence and should receive punishment for the crime. If you thought the same, you have answered what retributive justice is, which is basically if you commit a crime, you deserve punishment. As an alternative to retributive justice, we have restorative justice model, which focuses more on healing and repairing relationships rather than punishment. It involves bringing all the parties involved together in an egalitarian setting and focusing on resolving the issue in a constructive way. Alternatively, transformative justice model gives power to the community members instead of government and focuses not only on healing the harm that has occurred after the incident, but even goes as far as challenging or transforming the conditions under which the crime took place initially. Talking about alternative approaches to crime and punishment, the Norwegian approach is the best real-life example that provides an alternative to the retributive model used primarily around the world. Deviating from retributive approach, Norway uses more of a welfare or rehabilitative approach which does not include punishment but rather focuses on how a person can be reintegrated back to society as a normal human and not as a threat to the society and himself. Drawing on an argument against Angela Davis's prison reform or prison abolition, it talks about how people view prisons as an institution designed to punish people who are criminals. It surely makes them feel safe as criminals are being wiped off the streets and put into prisons while doing nothing to address the root cause of crime itself. This approach has not shown any progress whatsoever. Norway's approach keeps the root cause of evil in mind and provides a more humane environment and activities to develop skills to the prisoners. She also talks about large prisons and growing number of prisons in the US. Meanwhile, Norway has very less number of prisons and the size of prisons are also small. Norway's approach is surely an alternative to the retributive model and they have numbers that back it up too. Norway has 20% recidivism rate within 2 years of release of a prisoner. Recidivism rate is how likely a prisoner is to commit a crime again after being released from prison. As comparison, Canada recidivism rate within 2 years of release of a prisoner is 45%. Another impressive statistic Norway holds is that the previously unemployed prisoners have seen an 40% increase in employment rates after being released. You may wonder why is that so? It is because they develop new skills when they are in prison instead of being punished or isolated for the majority of their stay. They say numbers don't lie and Norway surely has number to back it up. In other words, Norway's approach leans more towards restorative and transformative approaches of justice. I would also like to use Jung's 5 Phases of Oppressions piece from our first module to develop my argument further as the Norwegian approach also eliminates some of the oppressions mentioned by Jung which the retributive approach misses by a margin. The Norwegian approach eliminates marginalization, powerlessness, and violence which the retributive framework does not tackle. Marginalization is when a person or a group is excluded or deprived from participation in society. Norway prison system tackles this by making sure that culprits are admitted to close to home prisons so that they don't lose touch with their families. Prisons also have different separate rooms constructed for prisoners to meet their families on the weekends. Powerlessness describes little or no agency of individuals in decision making that impacts their own life. Norway, instead of taking away power, gives agency to criminals to further their education, increasing the likeliness of them getting a job after completion of the sentence. Norway provides agency to prisoners under the Norwegian Education Act, which provides prisoners with similar access to education just like the other citizens of the country. Prisoners are also given a chance to develop more skills that will help them in the future to have more agency and be more independent. Violence refers to performing acts of physical or emotional harm over a person just because they belong to a specific group. As prisoners are put into the category of deviant or potential danger to the society group, they become vulnerable to violence. However, prisoners in Norway are treated with respect and not violently. Prisoners have adapted accordingly and are even left open for a period of time to visit other cells, play board games, or make food. There is no violence inflicted onto the prisoners, which also means that their mental state is always stable and healthy. Coming back to the quote we read at the starting of the presentation, it was actually said by a prisoner serving time in Bostoy prison in Norway. You would not hear an American or even a Canadian prisoner saying these words. It just shows how Norway's approach has proven to be beneficial for the mental and physical health of prisoners by creating a cycle in which prisoners does not hate themselves and they are given work to develop their skills. Norway has proven that it is possible to achieve results by deviating from a norm. Overall, I think that prison should have a welfare model instead of a retributive model, and prisoners should come out of the prison as better individuals rather than being miserable and hating their life. Prison system like Norway's should be looked at as an example by other countries and they should try to implement it in some way. The norm that evildoers should get punishment for what they have done should be challenged, as punishing them will only make it worse for them and for the society. Thank you for tuning in to my presentation.